Hey, so welcome back to Case Studies. So we're doing a special group of case studies based off of the Owners, Presidents, Managers program at Harvard Business School. So most of the time we do them at our studio, but we had the team come out. And a lot of it was inspired by inspiring people. Sure. It was being in the room and me just being lit up by my classmates. And specifically the way that Harvard works is you have your living group. And so you'll have a group of 8 people in a bigger class that kind of spends a lot of their time together.
Sure.
And so really excited to sit down with Adel Sajan.
And might I add, not only are we on the same living group, but I think we have the best living group of this cohort.
100%. So the way that this program works, it's you have to own a business.
Correct.
And you have to have kind of a 20 million plus revenue. Minimum. And so many of them are so much bigger. And we'll get into, the business that you and your family have built.
Sure.
But you're just around people that are playing the game of business at a scale that's so disproportionately bigger than what I'm used to in the sub-market, in Utah where I'm from.
Sure.
And so it's so fun to come out and get this global view. So I'm so excited to dig into you and your story and everything.
I mean, personally, even for me, of course, HBS, Harvard has been great. Half the value comes from the cases, but more than the cases, it's the people you meet, the stories you hear, both success and failure. And I think the kind of value you get over here is incredible because no place in the world you're going to find a situation where everyone's left their business back home. And then you have these small group of people who are super smart, who've done something. And there's so much to learn from there. I think it's so incredible. I've loved my journey over here. And I'm happy you're part of my living group.
No, like I feel lucky to be a part of the group. So I want to jump into the story.
Sure.
Because as I've got to know you and I've got to know your story, it's an incredible story.
Yeah.
So talk to me. Let's go back all the way because I think, having it be a family business, you kind of have to go to the origins of the family business. So talk to me about like where the business was created.
Sure. So just to give you some context, my granddad was poor. We were from India originally, and we actually lived not me, but my granddad, my dad lived in the slums of India, and my granddad was a factory worker. And when my dad was 16 and he was the oldest, his father passed away. So literally overnight, they had no money to get the next meal in front of them. And he had to do a lot of odd jobs. He was selling firecrackers, delivering milk, delivering newspapers. You can name whatever odd job you can think of, he was doing it just so that his family could have a meal to eat. And times were tough. And he reached out to his uncle, who was based in Kuwait, who had a business. And he told him that, look, I'm in trouble, uncle. Help me out.
He was in India at this time, right?
He was in India. He was in India. He had his younger brother, his younger sister.
And so maybe even take like a step further because and this is my ignorance. And this is me living in the U.S. and U.S. being a big market.
Sure.
Talk to me a little bit about India. And like not India today, but India when your dad was growing up.
Yeah, so India, when my dad was growing up, of course, there's a huge disparity in income. There were a few people who had a lot of wealth, but majority of the people over there did not have access to that kind of wealth. And then, typically, the mentality over there is you got to be a doctor, you got to be an engineer, and that was a roadmap that was selected for most individuals. Now, our family back then didn't have the money to become a doctor or an engineer. We were doing a basic degree, but even that became challenging after my granddad passed away. So at that point in time, it was not about career or business.
It's about
it was
surviving.
How do I put the next meal in front of me? That's what it was. And it was hard.
So. I think about this like the American dream.
Sure.
You come to America and, with the opportunity, does that exist in India the same, but did it then? Or was it just starting?
More now than then. More now than then, for sure.
Because when you were telling me your dad's story, I was just sitting there going, that had to have been almost like an impossible situation.
It was.
Where your dad passed away, you're young.
16.
I mean, school's out. You know, like you're like killing yourself. So keep going. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
Yeah,
but
so he's 16. I mean, he's very young. And he got in touch with his uncle in Kuwait. And he's like, look, uncle, I have a problem. I need help. Can you please give me a job in Kuwait? Because in Kuwait, you earn in Kuwaiti dinars. And that's a lot more than what you could earn in rupees in India. And his uncle said that, look, when you turn 18, I'm going to give you the job. And he just thought that like how typical people are when you need them the most, you don't get any help. You know, that's how, you know, unfortunately humanity works. At the time of need, when you need people to support you the most is when you find very few people to help you out. Anyway, fast forward, he turns 18 and his uncle sends him a letter saying that, hey, now you're 18, come down to Kuwait and work with me. And he went to Kuwait with a very basic salary and a sales commission. My dad's a born salesperson, and within like 5 years or 6 years, he became the right-hand man of my uncle, of my dad's uncle. And he was crushing it over there. Like he became the second in command. He was the one, you know, driving the sales over there. And he was earning about 35 years ago, roughly $10,000 a month.
which is tremendous amount of money.
$10,000 a month in today's money would be about $20,000. $20,000 if you convert to Indian rupees, you're rich.
You're
rich.
You're living large.
You're rich. You're
Yeah.
like super rich. You know,
Yeah.
he got his sister married. I was born then. You know, life was super good. Like imagine you're a factory worker. You know, your dad's a factory worker in India, and now you're making
I feel like everything changed.
everything change.
Yeah.
So we were very happy, and unfortunately, then in 1991, Iraq invaded Kuwait, and one fine morning, my dad gets a call from his boss. He was in London at that point. He's like, Rizwan, you know, Kuwait's under invasion, and my dad is like, what is invasion? What does that even mean? Because he wasn't that educated. He's like, what does that even mean? He's like, just go and see outside your window. And when he went outside, he saw army tanks on the streets. He saw soldiers marching down. It was wild.
So this is Saddam Hussein, right?
This is Saddam Hussein
Yeah.
from Iraq, who
Yeah.
invaded Kuwait overnight, and everything was shut. Telecommunications were shut. You know, there was no internet, nothing. And it was kind of scary, right? And then my dad's boss called him. He's like, look, please go and get all the valuable documents and like do these, you know, odd
Because
jobs.
Kuwait was kind of thriving. It was kind of up
It
and
was
coming.
very good.
And
It was very
yeah.
good. Lot of resources, small population, high
Yeah.
GDP per capita, excellent country. We were happy, you know,
Yeah.
overall. And then overnight, Iraq took over. Wow. And typically speaking, in a scenario like this, most people would be like, "Oh my God, my life is over. What do you do?" You know, it's a panic situation. And my dad, he has such a entrepreneurial spirit. Even at a difficult time like that, what he did was, since the communication was cut, after a few weeks, he went to everyone in the building, took down telegrams from them, letters that they want to send back home, and he collected about 200 letters per trip, and he would charge about $20 per letter. So 200 letters into $20 is like, $4,000. And he would then drive through the war-torn area, go to the other side, and then mail letters. So he was also trying to see, how can I make money in a situation like this?
It's just how he's built.
It's how he's built. Obviously, the Indian embassy found out about it soon. He's like, look, Rizwan, you can't do this. This is not safe. And but that's how he was. Whatever happens in life, he always saw how he can take the business, or how, what is the plus side of it? How can you make the most out of it? Fast forward, we had to run back to India. We got rescued by the Indian government, us and amongst other Indians.
Yeah.
And then we were looking for, the Kuwaiti dinar had devalued. So whatever money he had made in Kuwait,
It's not worth it.
most of it was gone.
Yeah.
And he had to, again, back to square one. I need a job.
And he's how
I need-
old at this point?
He must be my age.
Okay, mid-30s.
Maybe
low
younger than me.
30s,
Probably, early 30s, 31, 32.
Can you imagine? Like, think about
He
yourself
has a
right
kid.
now.
He
Yeah,
has a
like,
kid.
think about yourself in life
It's
right
scary.
now.
It's scary. And he comes to Dubai, and unfortunately, he gets a job for $500 a month, plus commission. So again, he comes back to ground zero. But then luck favors him when he comes
And talk to me about Dubai at that point when he showed up.
So Dubai at that point was just about to explode. You know, it was 1991, 1992. It's after 2000 is when things really started blowing
And
up.
like, I've never personally been to Dubai.
Yeah.
But anybody who's been there, it's just unique in the world. Like, it's like this perfect intersection of everything and the way that they've structured it. So give some kind of context to what is Dubai and how does it fit in the world? Because it's right in the middle of the Middle East. You know, you have all the like religious overtones of all of the Middle East, but it's very multinational.
So Dubai today is very different from Dubai 30 years ago, right? Today, Dubai is one of the hottest cities in the world. It's very centrally located because if you visualize it, 1/3 of the world's population is a 4-hour flight. 2/3 of the world's population is within an 8-hour flight radius.
Wow.
So we're in the center of the center
Of everything.
of everything.
Yeah.
Number one. Number two is, you know, the way within 25 years, Dubai has become one of the top cities in the world. You know, if you go anywhere in the world and you say from Dubai, it's like a pickup line. Oh my God, Dubai! I gotta visit there. I gotta be there.
Yeah.
I've heard so much, and you know, you have fancy buildings, fancy cars. All of that was made in 25 years. It was
So
not.
it's a brand new city.
It's a brand new city, and the full credit goes to one man, His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, who is a visionary leader.
He just saw it.
He's so good. For all the viewers over here, if you want to understand or if you want to run your business in a better way, I highly recommend this book. It's called The Sheikh CEO. It is incredible. It tells you how he runs Dubai. It tells you how he made the city. It tells you how he gets people moving. That's another podcast by itself. But I highly recommend that. I highly recommend this book. You know, it's one of my favorite books, and it really teaches you how to run a business too. Because he is, I think, one of the best CEOs in the world, and that's why he's transformed a desert.
It was literally a desert.
It is a desert.
Yeah.
A desert into what it is today.
Wow.
You know, where everyone wants to come in. You know, we have, so you know, there's a lot happening over there.
So your dad kind of showed up right on the front end of that.
Yeah. So we came in, again, low salary, and he then went to my mom after a few months. He had about $30,000 saved, and he's like, "Look, I want to start a business. Worst case, 6 months from now, if the business fails, I know I can get a job worth $3,000 a month, easy, and we can live.
Yeah.
Like, we won't die. You know,
Yeah.
we can live. We will be all right. It's not the end of the world." And my mom was very supportive.
Yeah.
And he started off his business. You know, we started off with indenting, building materials. So
Yeah.
connecting the buyer and the seller, and then taking a small commission,
Yeah.
a few percent. And in his favor, what happened was Iraq's invasion got finished, and Kuwait was building up again. And guess where Kuwait was getting all its materials from?
Wow.
From Dubai. And who was a man from Kuwait?
He had all those relationships.
So he was very good relationship. So he was very well known in Kuwait, and he's like, "Oh, Rizwan is in Dubai. Let me approach him because everything is coming from Dubai." So luck played in his favor, and now suddenly he's, you know, helping fridges, TVs, you know, you name it, materials, wood, sanitary ware, tiles, anything and everything. He was like a middleman, helping people to supply.
Just a hustler.
Yeah. So
I love it.
It started off like that. I mean, our company started 30 years ago, and then eventually we started our building material business.
So talk about that, because we were discussing it, and that was like a really interesting. His intent wasn't to go start a business; it was to get his employer to start it, right?
Correct. Initially, so
Yeah.
he wanted his employer to start it, but his employer was conservative, the one in Dubai.
Yeah.
And that's when he got into the materials business by himself. Eventually, when the first thing he did was he got a agency, selling a special kind of plywood, which opened up his doors in the market. And because of his relationship in Kuwait with that same supplier, he was able to get material on credit only because the suppliers loved him. He had no assets, he had no company structure.
They just believed in him.
Typically speaking, factories don't give you that, you know, because they're like, no way, you know, who
Yeah.
are you? But he was able to pull that off because of his charisma, because of his selling skill, whatever it is, you know, relationship building. So he started off with building materials. And slowly and steadily, we grew. Now we're like probably the first or the second top two building material providers in the Middle East. We have 25,000 SKUs: plywood, timber, steel, aluminum, glass.
But not just to the Middle East, it's all over the world, right?
That's the other business. So so there are multiple businesses. This is the first one we created. It's a building material business. The second is we also have a brand called Milano, selling sanitary ware, electrical hardware. So we have 5,000 dealers around the world. When I joined the business, I started the retail business, which is called Danube Home. And that was such a challenge. That was such a challenge because, my story was, how my dad had learned the hard way. He taught me the values also in the same way. So I remember when I was 13 years old, my summer holidays were spent in the yard. So we had these building material shops with an open yard, and I would be working from 8 to 1 with a tie in the yard. Now keep in mind, we're in Dubai. Dubai, June, July, August is really hot.
Yeah.
And there's no shade. And I'm 13 and I'm in the yard and I'm working with the blue collar staff, which I loved, but it was fucking hot. It was really, really hot. And I would carry 4 shirts every day. My mom and my dad would fight because my mom's like, what are you doing to my 13-year-old? And my dad's like, no, stay away. This is my domain. Just this is how it's going to be.
When I was like right before we got on this, your mom called you.
Yeah.
And she calls every day.
Yeah.
Like you're kind of a mama's boy. Like
I mean, we're very closely knit as a family. Just to give you some context to that, we're actually 4 generations staying together in one house in Dubai. It's so my grandmom, my parents. I'm the only child.
Which is traditional in your culture, right?
Traditional in our culture, but not very common today.
Not as common.
Not at all. I think like 90% of my friends
don't do that.
It's normal not to live with your family.
Yeah.
It's abnormal to live with your family in today's day and age.
But you guys can do it.
But we love it.
So
it's
beautiful.
amazing. We're lucky to have it. It's a big enough house. We have my 3 children, my wife.
No, but you were talking about that dynamic, and I thought it was so interesting because your parents have to have like a really beautiful relationship because you have your mom that's just like loving on you, and you're only child, right?
Only child.
And so she's like loving on you every day. But then you have your dad that like kind of knows
that, like strong men.
But like the world's hard and business is hard, and like for you to go get it, you got to earn it. Like I can't give it to you. You got to earn it.
And I give him full credit because the way he built my foundation when I was young is so critical to getting a head start. Right? So I was at the yard for 3 years, summer holidays. I spent a year in marketing, a year in sales. I spent a year in my dad's cabin. So when I say a year, it's actually the 3 months in the summer holidays.
What a gift that like you get this front row seat
access
on how to be an entrepreneur at that age.
Beautiful.
And did you always love it?
I loved it.
You always loved it.
Besides the heat, I loved it. I loved it. I didn't mind the heat also. Then I managed through it. And my first journey, so I was a very good student. I was supposed to study in USC, California. But then I decided to stay back in Dubai and study over there. The reason was because we had just started our retail business. And my dad's like, look, I want you to work and study. Here's $1 million. I want you to go to China and start me a chandelier division. And I'm a 19-year-old kid, what's a chandelier division? You don't know, right? Like you've not been taught. So I'm like, okay, how do I do that? And he's like, just go there and you'll figure it out. And he never taught me. He just threw me in the pool. So I opened an Excel file and I tried to make some sense of it. Okay, how would I split my budget? Started visiting some competitors. And it's an interesting story. So I'm 19 and we've just hired this new translator in China. So she's new, I'm new. And this is 2 of us. And we go to the city called Gujin, which is 90 minutes away from Guangzhou. And that city is 10,000 shops of lighting with another 15,000 factories of lighting.
10,000.
That one city.
I can't even
I can't
even comprehend that.
I'll tell you, that one city supplies to 60% of the world's lighting and chandeliers. You imagine like 20 shopping malls, 7-8 floors each. Only lighting.
I literally can't even imagine it.
Only lighting. That's all there is. And then we're going. Man, I spent like 10 days over there, shop to shop, trying to figure out the price, trying to guess the price. I have no idea about duties, MOQs, production. How shipping is going to be. What is my, nothing. Like I have no idea about anything, right? So we're just trying to make sense of it. Obviously now I've been there. I've been to China 40 times. I've been to, I used to travel for buying and for work almost 100 days a year. Germany, Malaysia, Vietnam, US, Brazil, Mexico, everywhere, you name it, wherever you can get furniture, we were there.
Wow.
And so the interesting pivot was when I graduated, my dad's like, what do you want to do? And I want to obviously join the family business. And I had two options then. So one was our building material business, very successful. We were doing about, 1.5 billion a year. And it was making money. And the other was this retail business, which was doing about 100 million a year. And we were losing about 10 million on it.
So it was a hard business.
My dad wanted to shut it down.
Yeah.
So he was like, look, I'm fed up with this business. I don't like it. You're not making money.
So you kind of got this, because you were talking to me about the margins, and it's like the other business is a really healthy business, consistent.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because that was a mother business. This is a new business we tried.
Yeah, it's 30 years old, 25 years old this time.
But at that point, we were not doing a good job with the retail, so we were losing money. And I was like, what do we do? So I had two options. I could have joined a successful business, easy. It's 10 times the turnover. We're making money. But I told my dad, I'm like, look, I want this retail business. You're going to shut it down. Don't shut it down for 2 years. I want to take it. And if I can turn this around 2 years from now, it's mine. Like, I'm going to be in charge of taking this to the next level. And he's like, sure. And I was 21. And he gave me this 100 million a year revenue business with 700-800 staff. Who does that, right? So he's like, it's yours. And he was happy to do that because it was a headache he was passing on. But those years were wild. They were so exciting. So 2012, I take over. And the first 2 years are so hard because I feel it's much easier to start a new business than to take a failed business and to turn it around.
You got all the culture.
It's much harder.
Yeah.
And, the 2 years, I took a lot of hard calls, shut down half the stores, stopped all local purchase. Everything had to be imported so we get better margins, rebranded our name, got some good retail professionals on board, fixed our merchandising, lots of things. And, this might sound basic for retail, but at that point, we didn't have any of this in place. And I remember it was
base for retail, but I'm just like put myself in your shoes at 21 years old.
And
I'm trying to think where I was at 21 years old.
It was hard.
Like I had half a brain at 21 years old.
It was hard.
That experience. One of my mentors, he was talking about, he'll get asked about entrepreneurship.
Sure.
And he'll say, hey, how do I be an entrepreneur? What would you study? And he has this quote that's always stuck with me. And I'm thinking about this as I'm hearing your story. It's a guy named Alex Dunn. And he said, the best way to be an entrepreneur, to learn about being an entrepreneur, is to be an entrepreneur, is to start a business. Sure. And I can't even imagine you flying to China and figuring it out, or you taking the retail best. Like, how do you teach that? You can't.
It's really hard because going to China and buying chandeliers is one thing, but turning a failed business and turning around is
so
a completely different monster.
So painful.
The first challenge that I had was we have, few retail heads who are older than me, and I've come in as chairman's son.
Oh my gosh, at 21 years old.
Right, skinny looking kid, come in, and now suddenly I'm the boss.
But I put myself in like their shoes.
That's the problem. So that's what happened.
Like, screw off, kid. You know what I mean? Like,
you're not. The first thing I had to do was get them on board.
Yeah.
Because that's exactly what happened. Because if I don't have my team on board, it's not going to work. So I went to them and I'm like, look, I don't know if you're happy or not happy about this decision, but I just want to tell you one thing. I'm not your enemy. I'm not here to take your job. You and I have the same aligned interests because I want to prove to my dad I can turn this business around. And if we turn this business around, you make money and your career grows. And the last thing I told them was, I'm like, look, I'm not here don't see me as your threat. Don't see me as your competition. I am your biggest weapon because I'm the chairman's son. I can open up a lot of doors that you may have not been able to open at your stage here. Because if you think about it, there are two companies, right? One is a big company, one is a small. So who gets bullied? It's the small one.
No, of course.
So I'm here as your protector.
No, but I'm hearing this and like, this is phenomenal leadership.
So I told him, I'm like, look, I'm here as your protector against the big dog over there. So you need me, So don't see me that I'm taking your job. See me as now you have a bazooka on your side because I'm gonna like bulldoze all the other people away because I'm the chairman's son. I can do that.
Oh, it's incredible.
In benefit of our company because now we both have the same goal. We've got to make this work. Anywho, so they were happy with that, and 2 years we took the hard decisions. And then it was 2014. So our revenue grew from 100 mil to 128.
Okay, so you grew it.
But the good news was we were losing 10 million and now we broke even.
So now you have stabilized.
Now we broke even.
Yeah.
Guess what my dad says? I'm not happy. He's like, oh, you've only grown by 28%. And when I was younger, I used to grow by 30, 40%. No. And I was like, look, it's very easy to grow the business in retail. You throw money, you open stores, business comes by itself. But today, if I would have taken the business that you built, that was losing 10 million a year, and I threw your money in making some more, guess what would happen? We would be losing 20 million a year. So I'm like, I don't want to do that, right? For me, you got to make money as well. Growth is important.
Is your dad like, is he getting it? Is he
he gets it. But his job is to push, right?
Is he just messing with you?
No, he's not messing, but that's his way of, getting the most out of people.
Yeah.
He's really good at that. So in 2014, when I was finally ready, where I felt that our brand was built, our foundation was strong, we had the right people on board, we had a vision, we'd done the study, things were good. I went back to him. I'm like, look, now we're ready for growth. I want to 10x this business from 128 to 1 billion a year in 5 years by 2020. That's my vision. That's my roadmap. And I didn't just say 10x because it sounds cool.
You thought you could do it?
No. I've done a lot of market studies. So we studied which markets we're going to. What is the size of the market? What my competitors doing in that similar size store? How many I could open? Whatever. So we've done a lot of math of how we could get there.
Yeah.
So that's how we decided it. And I was like, look, I need your blessings. So by blessings, I meant financial support.
Need your money.
So he's like, look, you have my blessings, money, as long as the balance sheet is in the green. I said, that's a fair point. So my job is, yes, I'm going to go because many of the times when you go for high growth, it comes at the expense of profitability.
Of course, yeah.
So now I had the second challenge, part 2. How do you grow 10x and make money at the same time?
Yeah.
Not easy. So guess what? So the first thing that I did after I got his blessings was I took about 30 of my key staff, product heads, branch heads, whatever, main guys, and I took them to Bali for a fun 4-day trip. Now, if you can visualize, I was 23, 24. My average team size was 25, 26. And then we had a few leaders at 34, 35. So we had a very young team. Intentionally.
Yeah.
None of these guys have gone on an overseas excursion, especially with the company. So we have these 30 people in Bali and we're young. So we're having a great time. The first 3 days, we did everything. We went clubbing, we went river rafting, kayaking, hiking. We just bonded on another level. And that's when we created our culture of one team, one goal.
Wow.
That Wolf of Wall Street kind of culture. So we really bonded.
You guys came together.
Which was so important. And that's critical if you have big plans ahead. And it was on the last day, I remember we were having a bonfire by the beach. And that's when I went to them. I'm like, look, guys, I'm so lucky to have all of you, but I want to announce my roadmap for the next 5 years, my vision 2020. And I know the last 5 years, we've not done much. We've always been 80, 100, 120, 128. But the good news is, I want to 10x this business in the next 5 years. And everybody thought, the boss has lost it.
He's crazy.
He's crazy. He's gone. Because, you imagine 7-8 years, nothing happened. I mean, nothing happened, but like we were struggling, right? And then suddenly,
It's time.
because my dad had it for 5 years, and then and then suddenly you want to like now grow it 10x. Like what the hell? So then I explained to them like, look, I've spoken to the chairman, who's my father. I explained them the whole strategy that look, Oman, Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar, UAE, these are my market. This is what each store is doing. This is the market size. This is how we got to go. Blah 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 blah. Of course, it doesn't go exactly the way you planned it, but you get a general route,
Yeah.
right? But I told them two things. I'm like, look, this is my plan. I'll tell you my expectation, and I'll tell you what you're gonna get. What I want is for the next 5 years, whatever you've worked in the last 5 years, you need to be working double if you want to be here, because that's what the job needs. We need people who are working a lot, who are not looking at their clock, who are okay with no work-life balance. And if you're not okay with this, leave today. Tell me now you're not okay with this. I'll give you whatever letter of recommendation, whatever compensation you need. I'm going to sign it off.
Yeah.
I'm okay. But I need people who are okay with the vision and okay with the work that needs to be put in. But I promise you, if you do stick around 5 years from now, when the company grows, all of you are going to be leaders in your place.
It's like Braveheart stuff. You get me all fired up. I'm like hearing this speech and I'm just like.
So, and you know what's funny? Out of the 32 people, one guy left.
One guy.
And he made a mistake because he wanted to come back 6 months later.
Couldn't.
And he tried 4 or 5. He still tried. We couldn't because the position was filled. We moved ahead. And we're now in 2024. All 31 of them work for me.
Everyone.
All of them.
What?
And all of them are now
way more senior.
With so many junior people under them because, and if you want to fast forward and know what happened with the numbers, so we had the $1 billion, the $1 billion in revenue dream.
Yeah.
We didn't touch $1 billion. We touched 720 million, which was still 6x or 7x, 6.5x of what we planned. But most importantly, where we were losing 10% a year, 2020 was a record year. We made 13% in net.
What?
So there was a 20% swing.
You gotta be kidding me.
There was a 20%
So you're
swing.
making like $60 million in 2020.
So there was a 20% swing in the business in from minus 10.
In retail, it's like impossible. Like
plus
those
10.
numbers are they're just tight margins.
But the only number, the numbers what I speak is in AED, so you got to divide by 3. So when I'm saying like 800 million, it's probably like 250, 300
in dollars.
Yeah. Because it's easier for me to remember. So I was happy. The team was happy. Everyone was happy, and that was phenomenal. And as time progressed, I'm like, how do I take this to the next level? So then one of the things I did was I started a franchise business. So typically speaking, if you see Dubai has the highest number of franchises per capita in the world, all the franchises in the world over there. I'm like, the world comes to Dubai. How do I take Dubai to the world?
Wow.
And with that thought process, we started franchising our retail brand, and we opened about 10 stores in Africa because that was a virgin market. They didn't have any big players in the space. We also had a very strong home, presence in e-commerce. And keep in mind, our barriers to entry were very high because we are not coming from a retail family. So when I would go to the shopping malls and I'm like, hey, I want to open this big box concept, we were shooing away because we don't have 50 brands with us. And so 8 families who control 70% of retail in Dubai.
Wow.
Each family has 50 brands. So when you imagine me going with one brand, vis-a-vis other families coming with 30, 40 brands.
You're going to get pushed around.
Of course.
Yeah.
And then the second challenge I had is, at Danube Home, we sell furniture, but we also sell bathroom items. So I'm selling commodes, I'm selling, shower accessories. So now I go to the shopping malls, I'm like, look, this is my concept. It's like Home Depot, P&Q, but it's like mix. You also have furniture and garden. So I'm not putting a commode in my shopping mall. Sorry. You can't open over here. So that's how it was hard. So we pivoted and we started opening massive stores, 100,000 square feet stores, standalone.
They're your own.
Next to the best shopping malls in town. So anyone who has to go to shopping mall, they would see these big ass Danube Home boards, and we would put I'm not even kidding, 20-meter by 8-meter LED screens right there. You can't miss it. It's like boom. And you can watch a football game. Like it's massive, 160 square meter, massive LED screens, huge standalone stores right next to the best shopping malls in town. And that worked because I got bigger stores at a cheaper rent.
Wow.
And people still came because when you're making your home, you don't care if it's in a mall. You're gonna drive. You're okay to drive to a standalone building. So that's one of the strategies which we used. Fast forward, so created cash cow for the company. I also started a hospitality business, supplying to hotels, because again, everything from kitchen equipments, operating supplies and equipments, cutlery, furniture. A lot of hotels opening in Dubai, so we created a concept for them. Something fun that I started was we opened the largest indoor sports facility in the whole of Middle East and Asia. So that was a fun project for me because
fun.
I love paddle tennis.
Yeah.
And I saw a vacuum in Dubai. I saw a lot of white space where even though Dubai is the forefront of health and fitness, there wasn't a single multi-sport facility which was indoor. And I'm like, this has nothing to do with my core, but I'm going to do it anyway because it's a white space and it's a fun business. So that was pretty nice. And that goes back to our core principles. Every business we start, we always find out how we're going to be different from our competition. Like building materials, we were the first people to have a one-stop solution for the materials. At that point, at that time in the industry, the plywood guy was selling only plywood.
Wow.
The steel guy was only selling steel. The glass guy was only selling glass, and so on. So we were like, no, we're going to sell everything. And then that really provided value for contractors, for carpenters, for developers. Same with retail. When we entered, we sold furniture, carpets, curtains, wallpapers, kitchens, sanitary, tiles, electrical hardware, blinds, everything. You name it, you have it. So, and we also give a free designing service to our customers.
So that we can get into that. This has been as I've spent time with you, one of the things that I've been the most impressed with is and it's you and your dad. Like you can't separate both you guys because you guys are storytellers and you're also innovators. You come up with solutions to problems. Correct. And like, I wanted to touch on one specifically. So we haven't really got to your home or your development business.
Correct.
Which is kind of the crown jewel, right? Right now, Dubai is one of the hottest markets in the world.
Yeah.
You guys are one of the biggest developers in Dubai.
Sure.
And anybody who knows Dubai knows like the developments here are just they're as nice as anything in the world. So you guys are developing upscale, but some of the things that you just saw feel obvious, but they weren't happening. So like, talk to me about a couple of the innovations that have really driven your business. The ones that I loved was the financing option.
Yeah. So we wanted to enter real estate. It was a natural progression. We were a building material company. Dubai was doing well in real estate. And 2014 is the year we started. So we're like, how do we do it different? Because, every business has to have something different from the market. What is going to be our point? And we realized at that point in 2014, two things. Number one is all the big developers then were selling expensive apartments, $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, and they didn't have a payment plan. And if you look on the consumer side, 90% of the Dubai's population is expat.
Because you have people that make good money,
correct?
But they don't have like
$2 million. They don't have $500,000 in bank. That's a lot of money.
Yeah,
not everyone has that kind of money, and so we're like, how do we solve that? So my dad came up with a concept called the 1% payment plan. So I remember back then we launched these really nice apartments, mid-scale. Starting price was $130,000.
So not super expensive.
So very affordable. And the best part was you got to pay 20% upfront. So you got to pay about $30,000 upfront. And then you're paying 1% per month. So you're paying about $1,200, $1,300, $1,400 a month. So this business model now opened up a gateway where finally people who were renting a home for Dubai for 10, 15, 20 years
You could buy.
could finally buy an apartment.
Yeah.
You know, we had so many people come and like, oh my God, thank you. Finally, we have a way where we can invest, you know, and it doesn't hurt my bank. So that was the starting point. Of course, the scheme was an instant success.
People loved it.
People loved it.
Because financing just didn't exist, right?
Because no, you had banks, but we simplified the process because we took the onus on our head. We inbuilt the interest cost, you know, inside our model, and customers didn't have any hidden charges, no interest.
It was just straightforward.
They're just buying that unit with a really nice.
So you guys
plan.
just made it really simple.
And that was a super hit. And as time progressed, obviously a lot of people copied it. It became the trend of the market. So then, like, how do we innovate? What's the next best thing we can do? And then that's when we started giving fully furnished apartments to our buyers. And because we had our home brand, the retail brand, we were able to do it much better than others.
But I'm just noticing these trends, and it every single one of these, it's like it's hard to get all your materials. How do we make it easy? How do we make it a one-stop shop where somebody can come and just get everything?
Correct.
And then it's hard to buy a house.
Sure.
How do we make it easy?
Correct.
And then it's buying a house is one thing, furnishing it is something completely different.
So how do we make it easy?
How do we make it easy? How do we
That's it.
make it where it's just so easy for somebody to say, I like that, let's do it?
Let's do it.
And it like this genius of making these complex things
Simple.
I'm sitting here listening to it, and like I just admire not just the business you built, but the experience for the customer. Because I think those two go hand in hand.
Sure.
It's like if a customer's having a great experience,
Sure.
Same thing with the retail space. How do we make it really easy? How do we make it easy to come in and go have this experience? Anyway, it like I'm so impressed by these innovations because I love good service.
Sure.
Like the Amangiris and the places that provide excellent service. But what you're taking is that approach in a sometimes blue collar, even white collar experience, just providing really good service and making it easy.
Sure.
Talk to me about amenities, because this was another one that I was like, it feels common sense, but it wasn't.
So you know, once we did the payment plan, we did the furniture, like how do we take our projects to the next level? How do we up the game? And, you know, if you look at buildings in Dubai, you know, before, like maybe 10 years ago, most of the buildings had 4 or 5 amenities. They had a pool, they had a jacuzzi, they had a kids pool, they had a small kids play area, a gym maybe, sauna. That's it. You know, that's what you could expect in 90% of the buildings, nice buildings. And we were like, how do we change that? And we were one of the first people in the city, like my last project, Bays 102, which is 102 floors in Business Bay, heart of downtown, that has 50 plus amenities.
50 plus.
50 plus amenities.
So go through like what.
So when I say 50 plus amenities, you have something for everyone. You have a bowling center, you have a golf simulator, you have an aquatic gym, you have a floating cinema, you have a kids daycare center, you have a doctor on call.
Anybody who knows Dubai, it stretches the imagination of what's possible. Like,
whatever you can think is possible is probably in there.
Yeah.
If it's not, let me know. It'll be there in the next project. So, you know, we've really thought this through. And, you know, I mean, 50 amenities is a lot of amenities.
It's incredible.
So we now transformed from an affordable real estate developer to an affordable luxury real estate developer where we're like, look, we're going to give you luxury that's better than what you'd find in most hotels. But then the core ethos of the payment plan is there, the fully furnished is there.
Just bringing value. Just
right?
figuring out
high value.
High value.
So that was a hit. And just to give you some numbers, you know, Dubai from 2020 to now, in the last 3.5 years, has done about $500 billion in transactions.
Wow.
2021 was a record year, all-time record year. 22 smashed that. 23 smashed that. And now 24, 6 months in,
On
is
fire.
30% higher than that. So you've had 4 years back to back where you're smashing record after record after record. $500 billion worth of real estate transacted, 50% of which is off plan, what is the market we're in. And
So walk through off plan, because I
So-
think this is not as normal of a concept in the US.
Okay, so off-plan projects are basically when you buy a land, you conceptualize a project, you sell the project, and then you make it.
So you're like pre-selling,
Pre-selling.
the entire project before you even like
Make it.
lift a shovel.
That's how the buy market
It's
works.
so beautiful.
And that's how the buy market works. And, I'm very proud to say that even though we started our real estate business only in 2014, and there are a lot of government-backed businesses in Dubai as well in real estate, we're number 3.
Wow.
We're number 3 in Dubai, which is great, because Dubai is a hyper-competitive market. So we've been able to carve out our niche and, get that top position in a completely new industry out of nowhere. With the simple, basic mantras, understand what the customer needs and find an innovative, disruptive way
Wow.
of how you can add value to the consumer. If you can figure that out, it's gold.
We could literally go on all day.
Yeah.
There's a couple of topics that are important to me. Talk to me about family
Yeah.
and how family fits in the mix, kind of your philosophy on family. And then we'll finish with faith. How does faith fit in the mix?
So family is very important in our family. Like I mentioned earlier, we are actually 4 generations staying together in one house. That's important. In fact, my cousins, my uncle, they all involved in family business. And generally, I've seen this when there's a lot of money that comes in, family breaks off. It's very normal, but we've been lucky. Our first generation is very tightly knit. The second generation, me and my younger cousins, we're very tightly knit. We've structured the company in a way where it doesn't matter where the value is coming from. We're all one together. So it's not that his business is doing better or my business is doing better. We've kept the group at one. And we always helping each other and making sure we're supporting each other. So we're really united at the moment. And
That's so challenging.
That's on the
Yeah.
business side. On the other side, my mom and my wife get along very well,
Yeah.
which is great. Me and my wife get along very well. I have 3 beautiful kids. We all stay in the same house. So I'm trying to bring in the same values. So just a few days ago, my kids have, I got a 3D printer and they've been like, oh, every day I want a new one. So I'm like, look, now every time you want a toy, you got to go and clean a car. So they're like 5 and 4, 6, 5 and 2. So I'm like my 2-year-old washing a car. I have a video of that. So I have a 2-year-old washing a car, of course with help. But then we're trying to instill that value.
The work.
Trying to, because
Yeah.
it's harder for me now because I'm born in Emirates Hills. Emirates Hills is like the Beverly Hills of California.
Yeah.
So you're born with a home theater in your house. You're born Ferraris and Lamborghinis around you. So how do you instill value?
I mean,
for money?
when I see the wealth that is
Yeah.
in that city, it's
insane.
just
It's insane.
it's a rising tide that's raising a
So-
lot of boats, and everybody that's on the front end of that growth is just. But that's also the challenge.
Sure.
And I think I think about that a lot, like the way I grew up, and the way that my kids grow up, like that. You can't put the genie back in the bottle,
Sure.
and so,
Sure.
like, how do you do it? How do you stay disciplined and do what
so
your
we're
dad
gonna
did?
we're gonna follow the same mantra. My dad put me to work when I was 13. I'm gonna try and put my kids to work when they're 10, 11, 12. Give them a salary, put them on hard, tough jobs, make them work for things. Don't just give everything to them. Start like I remember my dad used to make me polish shoes or wash the car. This is to earn $2 or $1, $3, just so he could teach me.
The value.
So now I'm doing that with my kids. So
Yeah.
we're going to try our best as parents to instill as much value as possible and support them in their choices.
Yeah.
Eventually. And talking about faith, of course, I'm Muslim, and we are a conservative modern family in the sense that my mom is super religious in this, like she prays like 8 times a day. We do, we fast 30 days a year. We go for our pilgrimages. We do zakat. Zakat is like you give charity. We donate a portion of your wealth every year. We try to do good in community, so we're doing our part. But we're also very fun-loving, outgoing.
Yeah.
People who socialize a lot, who are out there in the community. So I think it's important to have both, like deen and dunya, meaning the world today and the world tomorrow. I think they both are important. And I feel like it's important to find a balance where one doesn't come at the expense of the other. So we believe in that.
Talk to me about Shark Tank
Shark
before
Tank.
we finish up.
Yeah, so Shark Tank is coming to Dubai. I was invited to be one of the sharks of Dubai. That was so much fun because I just finished that before coming in here. And I think it's still early stages. In fact, one of the sharks from the US Shark Tank was part of my panel. This gentleman called Matthew Higgins, very smart guy. Good friends of mine. We've actually done a deal together also on the show. So yeah, it's the same format. Early days and looking forward. In fact, it's going to be coming out in a few weeks.
So fun.
Yeah, it was.
Well, brother, this was so fun for me. Like I've heard these stories, but I haven't heard them with this depth. And yeah, I just want to acknowledge like you and your family. You guys have built something really beautiful. And I think the jobs that you create and the culture that you create and the legacy that you have built and are building, like I think about how young you are. Yeah. And even how young your dad is.
Yeah, he is. He's 60.
And that market that's unique in the world. And I'm just excited to go see what 5 or 10 or 20 years from now looks like and see the legacy that you guys build. So
you're welcome. Anytime you're in Dubai, you have a friend now.
No,
so
we're
more than welcome. You should definitely come.
100% taking you up on it. And yeah, thanks for sitting in and chatting with me.
Perfect. Thank you.